Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bell Geospace's podcast, A Propensity to Talk Density. If you've been following the series, you'll have seen some of our expert geoscientists and guests discussing their experience of using gravity gradiometry data for exploration challenges. Normally, these shows are run by professional podcast hosts, but we've decided to do a self-hosted spin-off hosted by myself, Julianne Sharples, where I'm going to introduce and spotlight some of our very important teammates here at Bell Geospace. So today I'm joined by my first guest, Andrew Searle. Andrew, please introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about how you found yourself working for Bell Geospace.
Hi, my name is Andrew, and I'm a field operator with Bell Geospace. And in basic terms, I deploy globally with a crew on one of our 3 aircraft and operate the science equipment and acquire and process the survey data. I had a first career in the Royal Navy for 28 years. And then I worked as a field support engineer in the marine seismic survey industry for a couple of years with ION. I then heard about this role, and I've been with Bell Geospace for 6 years.
Wow. So what does Bell Geospace do? And what's your actual role, your daily role within the company?
Okay, so we operate 3 Basler DC-3 conversion aircraft, and we conduct low-level aerial geological surveys deployed globally. Our aim is to map the subsurface density contrasts, and we do that by measuring the changes in local gravity and magnetic fields. This is done either exclusively for a single client, or can also be done on a multi-client basis. My job is to fly and operate the science equipment and acquire and process the survey data. And then that data in turn is then quality controlled and further processed by our office staff and then presented to the client. I'm also heavily involved in the coordinating the daily logistics and operations in the field.
Sounds like those operations are pretty worldwide. You must have been all around the globe.
I've done a bit of traveling, yeah. We've operated in many countries around the world. We've conducted onshore and offshore surveys. And there's also a good graphic on our website which shows where we've operated. And some of those have actually been quite challenging environments. For example, myself, I've been in Malaysia when the temperatures have been 40 degrees plus, and also Canada when it was minus 30 degrees, both of which were good fun. We're currently operating in Asia and the Americas.
I guess there's both perks and probably some challenges to being part of such a global operation with what you've described so far. Can you tell me a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
there's challenges with moving aircraft around the world, especially recently with the COVID restrictions. But actually, I think it's one of the things that Bell Geospace are really good at, where we are process-driven, organised, and communicative. Once awarded a contract, we have to set up our operations for that, so it can be a challenge. There's many processes we need to overcome to get the plane and the crew into the country, such as immigration, customs, work and flying permits, environmental impact assessments, and community engagements as well. But on the positive side, as there's only 5 of us, it's far easier to manage and risk assess our operations. Also because we're totally passive with all our sensors and everything's on the airframe, it's a lot easier for us to deal quicker and acquire the data than, say, in seismic survey. It can be hard work with lots of challenges to overcome, but there are some picks to it as well. We only fly about 6 hours a day maximum. So we do get relaxation each day. We do occasionally end up in holiday resorts locations, so there can be like more infrastructure in place to experience. Recent examples of that were Sri Lanka and Malaysia, which were really enjoyable.
Yes, I saw the photographs of your time in Sri Lanka. The hotel looked absolutely incredible. That was something to do with the COVID bubbles, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, yeah. So we ended up in a really nice hotel. A lot of the hotels were actually closed. And as you say, we were in a bubble. well looked after. The hotel was great, and it was basically a good place to work from.
Yeah, look lovely. And you're quite a fan of the aircraft as well, aren't you?
Yeah, the Basler, it's an amazing and iconic aircraft. It's very reliable and a stable platform. And as I mentioned before, we fly for 6 hours, and it can it can operate in many different environments or even runways. For example, grass or even gravel, and it flies lower and slower. Um, and that's for better data acquisition. Um, on survey, we fly at about 120 knots at approximately 100 meters above ground, and we plan our gridded surveys in such a way that we're flying smooth over changes in altitude and direction to keep that quality of data high. The planes that we have were built in 1943, but they've subsequently been renovated and converted by Basler. So they've got new systems and engines installed on there, and they're always a crowd puller. Wherever we turn up, people are always asking questions, take pictures, and it's nice to sort of like show the aircraft off.
It's amazing. No, it's not just plane spotters either. The most recent study in Cornwall was my real first experience of it, because it's
Yeah,
local, and we just got so many great photographs for me to use
yeah,
coming in all the time, and really positive community engagement. So
yeah.
fantastic to see.
That's good to
So you
see.
mentioned there's 5 of you on a project, which
Yeah.
makes day-to-day operations easier to manage than some other exploration operations. But tell me more about who those crew are. What are they doing? And tell me about the crew
Okay.
on the project.
So there's three crew for the aircraft, and then there's two operators. So we have a captain, first officer, and a ground mechanic. And then on the survey side, we have a field supervisor and an operator. And between us, for the operations, we manage the survey equipment along with the daily operations and logistics. And we're typically accommodated nearer to the airport, and also that in turn is nearer the survey area. When the conditions are good, we fly as much as possible, and the best conditions for data acquisition are normally early in the morning when it's little wind, heat or turbulence, and because of that, it's always early to bed and early to rise to maximise that.
Yeah. And so I guess you're in fairly close quarters for long periods of time with these 5 teammates. When you're on a project, how is that? Are you all friends?
Oh yeah, we work together very closely, and we know each other well, and we have a good time. But we also, as I say, work hard together. But we also have our own space and time to recharge our own batteries, and that can be as simple as like going to your hotel room, like going to the gym, or just even going for a run or a walk. And also because we've all got our own tasks and jobs to do, we're not always living constantly in each other's pockets. So, for example, the mechanic could be doing maintenance on the plane. The pilots, they could be doing flight planning, and the survey guys, myself, and the operator, we could be liaising with the client, or we could be working on the equipment.
Yeah, so you're definitely not all in each other's pockets. What's your favourite part of life at Bell Geospace? What part of the job?
Um, I've actually got several things which are really good and really amazing. I love the travel and being based out of many global locations, and quite often we're off the beaten track. So you see some amazing scenery, and also like ferrying the aircraft between projects. It's hard work, but also good fun. And when we're on location, on survey or operations, actually meeting the people and experience, like the local cultures and food and things like that. And not every day is like the same. There's always something different, and there's always a new challenge to overcome. So it keeps us on our toes. Um, and also, as you said before, like flying on a classic plane, seeing things up close, amazing scenery as we fly by. And one thing I particularly like is it's like a multi-level puzzle every day. When you go up and fly, you want to efficiently acquire the data, but you've also got all the challenges, and that could be things like the weather or flight restrictions. So that keeps you on your toes, and it keeps you active. But it's good fun. But you've always got to have like a plan B ready to go at short notice.
I suppose after 25 plus years of operations, we've nailed our plan Bs. We've probably been around the bush
Yeah,
and
plan
we know
C's
what
and
to
plan
do.
B's. Yeah,
And plan Ds, yeah. But we
yeah.
always get the job done, don't we? So where are you
Yeah.
off to? Where are you off to next?
I'm preparing to go to Mexico next. So we've got a multi-client survey there, and looking forward to that. I haven't been to Mexico before, so I'm really looking forward to going to a new country.
Yeah, delicious food.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the end of the podcast, but a couple of things sprang to mind as we were going through it. Right at the start, you mentioned that you came from an ex-military background. I was just wondering if you think that's got any transferable advantage. I think we've got quite a few ex-military
Yeah,
staff
we
on our
yeah we
crew,
do.
haven't we?
We've got a few of the crew ex-military, and we're used to that sort of like always having to be adaptable, we're solutions driven, and we're always having to like overcome challenges that come our way. Usually, we have to do things at short notice, and there's like the plan might have to change, and it could be something as simple as like weather and things like that. But it's great to fall back on my military training and experience, and it makes, for me, it makes it a great fit. Always like doing something different, and just having to, like overcome, as I said, the all the challenges.
Yeah, and I guess also just that discipline and attention to detail is, safety is very
Yeah.
important if you're operating aircraft. So
Oh yeah.
I imagine that
Totally.
would be the
Yeah.
discipline of the military training must have its advantages.
Yeah.
Another thing that you mentioned that I just wanted to pull to the front for the sake of the audience is you talking about getting the data to the client from the field. How quickly does that happen?
Well, it's a bit of a process. So what we do is in the field, we do a first level processing, and then that gets quality controlled, and then further processed by the office staff. And the typically the basic initial results can be processed within a day or two, and then that gets presented to the client. So each flight data is then processed in turn, and then it's combined with the previous combination of processed data. So it's always increasing the understanding of that project. And imagine it's a bit like having a massive jigsaw puzzle. So we're kind of like filling up a jigsaw, like line at a time. But the client does get to see some of the data within a short period of time. And then obviously we have what we call interim images. So we provide like further details, and then at the end of the project, they get the full picture.
And they can, if they're getting that information as they go, they can, if we're suddenly flying over something that looks of great interest geologically, we can go and we can use that information and go and fill that, do the title line
Yes, yeah,
spacing there.
yeah, totally. Yeah, there's been times when they've said when we've been flying around in a big block, and they'll say the data is amazing, but can you actually concentrate on a certain area because that looks really good? So
Yeah.
we are reactive to the client and what they want.
As we said, to making changes and adapting at the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
minute is one of our specialities. The other thing I just wanted to ask you about, you were talking about how ferrying was one of your
yeah.
favorite parts of the job. Tell me about maybe your longest ferry, your biggest journey.
That was a couple of years ago, and again, it was short notice. I had to go and relieve one of the guys who was doing a ferry, and I took over the ferry going from Oman to Canada in the winter. So I had to get myself to Muscat at very short notice, like a couple of days, and it was that was fun. It was also interesting as well when I pitched up in Muscat. I had a massive bag with our cold weather gear, and there's a few sort of like puzzled faces asking, "Well, why have you got all this cold weather gear when it's like 40 degrees plus outside?" But that was all resolved. I got to the plane, and then we ferried, and because we're not a jet, we can only fly about a maximum of about 200 kilometers an hour. So what we do is we end up taking longer and having to hop across the globe. So on that occasion, we first flew to Kuwait for a fuel stop, and then we had overnights in Egypt, and then Greece, and then Germany, and then we had a fuel stop in Wick at the top of Scotland, and then overnights in Iceland. But we actually got delayed because of high winds and poor weather getting out. So although we were delayed, we had a couple of days, get a chance to see Iceland, which I'd never seen before. We then went on to Greenland for a fuel stop, and again that was like minus 35. So we had the cold weather gear came in handy, and then we had an overnight in Canada, in northern Canada, and again we got delayed, but I think it was a day for heavy snow, and then finally we got onto our base in Oshawa, where the aircraft's based and managed from. But the whole trip, going from the Middle East, where it was really hot, all the way across Europe, over Iceland, Greenland, and then into the Americas, it was an amazing experience. And some of the scenery I saw was fantastic.
Sounds amazing. Yeah, really good. I think the crew were digging themselves out of some snow in Canada just recently. I think from some
Yeah, they were.
photographs that I
Yeah.
saw.
So
Yeah, but
it's
they got
always
on their way and their plane arrived where it's meant to be,
yeah,
I think. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. I think it's clear to see
yeah,
that you're definitely a problem solver here at Bell Geo, and overcoming challenges is definitely a passion of yours. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a guest, Andrew, and
Thank you.
hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.